In this disturbing true crime documentary, we cover the chilling case of Jennifer Gledhill, an Utah mother of three whose secret double life led to one of the most shocking betrayals in recent history. What began as a picture-perfect marriage between a respected Green Beret and his loving wife would soon unravel into deception, violence, and a disappearance that left a community in disbelief. This is the story of how a secret affair spiraled into murder, and how a husband's devotion was repaid with unimaginable cruelty. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications, because at Unsolved True Crimes, we bring you real stories that reveal the darkest sides of human nature, and this one you won't forget. It was the kind of home people drive past and dream about, a pristine, million-dollar property tucked away in the quiet suburbs of Cottonwood Heights, Utah. To neighbors, Jennifer and Matthew Johnson seemed like the definition of success. Matthew, a decorated Green Beret with the Utah National Guard, had spent over a decade serving his country with honor. His reputation among his peers was unmatched: disciplined, sharp, reliable, and endlessly patient. Jennifer, his 42-year-old wife, was seen as the archetype of a devoted mother, kind, polite, often seen walking her three children to school or attending local community events. Together, they were the perfect couple, or at least, that's how it appeared. Behind those manicured lawns and family portraits, something toxic had taken root. Years of resentment, jealousy, and emotional warfare had eroded the once stable foundation of their marriage. Friends close to the couple would later say that while Matthew seemed grounded and calm, Jennifer had become unpredictable, alternating between charm and rage, affection and hostility. By the summer of 2024, the tension had reached a breaking point. The couple had started discussing divorce. On the surface, they were still functioning as a family, but privately, they were spiraling into a battle that would soon draw in the courts, their friends, and eventually the police. In August, Jennifer filed for a temporary protective order against her husband. She claimed she needed protection from him, painting herself as the victim in a volatile marriage. But when the case was reviewed by 3rd District Commissioner Russell Minus, he saw something different. The videos Jennifer submitted as evidence, meant to portray Matthew as abusive, instead showed her as aggressive, unafraid, and often taunting him. In one text thread later submitted to the court, Jennifer berated Matthew with insults and accusations, sometimes for hours. The commissioner's conclusion was blunt and chillingly prophetic. The marriage was highly dysfunctional, he said, bringing out the worst in both parties. His recommendation was that divorce proceedings should begin immediately, but those proceedings would never happen. Just days after the protective order was dismissed, Jennifer made a decision that would alter the lives of everyone around her. By early September, Matthew's friends began to notice subtle changes in his behavior. He seemed distracted, tense, and unusually quiet. He confided in a few close colleagues that he no longer felt safe at home. Jennifer's mood swings had grown darker, her temper more explosive. There were nights when he chose to sleep at a National Guard facility rather than return to his own house. One of his closest friends, retired Guardsman Kevin Thompson, later recalled that Matthew had finally made up his mind. He was done. He was ready to file for divorce and start over, but he would never get that chance. What Matthew didn't know was that Jennifer had already been living a double life. While pretending to hold her family together, she had started an affair with another man, a secret lover who would soon become the key to unraveling the entire case. It wasn't a fleeting romance. It was consuming, obsessive, and it filled her with a dangerous confidence. In one conversation, Jennifer bragged to a friend about the excitement she felt, the freedom of secrecy, the thrill of being desired. But behind the allure of her affair was something much darker. Jennifer wasn't simply cheating on her husband. She was already planning his death. On September 19th, just 2 days before the killing, Jennifer showed her lover a loaded Glock 19X pistol. At the time, it might have seemed harmless. Many military families kept firearms. But that small act would later be seen for what it was, a warning sign that went unnoticed. That weekend, Jennifer carefully arranged for their 3 children to spend the night with her parents. It seemed innocent enough, a weekend at Grandma's. But in reality, she was clearing the house for what she already knew she was about to do. September 20th, 2024 began like any other day. Matthew went through his routine, unaware that it would be his last. That evening, tension boiled over. Witnesses would later recall hearing shouting from inside the Johnson-Gledhill home, the kind of raw, furious argument that comes from years of betrayal finally laid bare. Jennifer would later admit that Matthew had confronted her about the affair. He yelled at her, demanded answers, told her he knew everything. What followed was a blur of rage, humiliation, and bitterness. But when Matthew finally fell asleep that night, the confrontation was over. Or so he thought. In the early hours of September 21st, while her husband lay asleep in their master bedroom, Jennifer made her move. She took his own 9mm handgun, a weapon he trusted to protect their family, and pointed it at him as he slept. The first shot ended his life instantly. What followed was cold, deliberate, and methodical. Jennifer wrapped his body in plastic and dragged it into a rooftop storage container. She then slid it down the stairs, loaded it into the back of the family's minivan, and began her cover-up. She smashed his phone, wiped down surfaces, and drove his truck to another neighborhood before abandoning it. Then she took Matthew's body north, where she buried him in a shallow grave. To this day, that grave has never been found. When she returned home, Jennifer began what police would later describe as an industrial-level cleanup. She scrubbed every trace of blood, bleached the walls, and ordered a brand new mattress to replace the one she had soaked with her husband's blood. The delivery came 2 days later, a quiet, unassuming transaction that hid the truth of what had happened inside that house. But even the most meticulous criminals make mistakes. On the night of September 22nd, Jennifer visited her lover. She was pale, exhausted, but eerily calm. When he asked what was wrong, she told him everything. How she had killed Matthew, how she disposed of his body, and how she had spent the last 2 days cleaning up. She even showed him bruises on her body, casually explaining that she'd gotten them while burying her husband. Her lover was horrified. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. But his horror would turn to fear as Jennifer continued talking. Not with guilt, but with unsettling detachment. When he expressed that he was scared, she laughed and said, "Wow, if you think I could even hurt a fly. He wasn't a person anymore." He wasn't Matt. It was the kind of statement that chills you to the bone. The sound of someone who had stripped all humanity from the person they'd once loved. Days later, Jennifer's lover secretly recorded another phone call. This time, she doubled down. She said she didn't see herself as a monster, that she was the Queen of Hearts from her past lives, someone who believed in off-with-their-heads justice. When asked if she'd be afraid if their roles were reversed, she replied coldly, "Not if I deserved it." That recording would later become one of the most haunting pieces of evidence in the entire case. Yet, incredibly, Jennifer still hadn't reported Matthew missing. She carried on with her daily life as though nothing had happened. It wasn't until 6 days after his death, on September 28th, that she finally called police. She told them that Matthew had said he'd be gone for a week and told her not to call him. Her story seemed thin, and police immediately noticed inconsistencies. By that time, the Utah National Guard had already grown concerned. Matthew had missed multiple calls and failed to report for duty on September 23rd. Something was very wrong. Unbeknownst to Jennifer, the man she had confessed to was already collecting evidence against her. He had screenshots of their messages, recordings of their phone calls, and proof that she had openly described killing her husband. When he finally went to police on October 2nd, everything began to unravel. That same day, investigators executed a search warrant at the Johnson Gledhill home. What they found matched her confession almost perfectly. Beneath the master bed was a large, blood-stained patch of carpet. Blood spatter was found on the walls, the bed frame, and even the blinds. The house reeked of bleach, and the brand-new mattress confirmed what detectives already suspected. But perhaps the most incriminating evidence came from technology. Jennifer's phone data showed her exact movements on September 21st and 22nd, the night of the murder and the following day. GPS logs placed her near the location where Matthew's truck was found abandoned, and later heading north toward Davis County, the same direction she'd confessed to burying him. For detectives, the puzzle pieces were falling into place. Jennifer's calm demeanor during questioning did nothing to help her case. When asked about her husband's whereabouts, she maintained that he'd gone away voluntarily. But behind that cool exterior, the walls were closing in. When investigators began searching the Gledhill home, they quickly realized they were standing inside a crime scene that had been almost successfully erased. Every inch of the master bedroom had been scrubbed with bleach. The air stung their throats. The carpet was freshly cleaned, and the walls glistened unnaturally. A desperate attempt to make horror vanish under chemical shine. But you can't bleach out the truth. Under ultraviolet light, faint traces of blood appeared on the floorboards and walls, ghostly reminders of what had happened there. And beneath the bed frame, detectives found what they'd been hoping to find: A single patch of carpet Jennifer had missed soaked deep red into the fibers. The DNA came back as a perfect match for Matthew Johnson. Jennifer had tried to stage a disappearance, but what police were uncovering now was a murder scene, one that told its own story even after the killer tried to silence it. Phone records, GPS data, text messages, and forensic evidence began painting a chillingly precise picture of the night Matthew died. Investigators found that Jennifer had ordered a new mattress on September 24th, just 3 days after the murder. When asked about it later, she claimed the old one had, quote, gotten ruined. The following day, police searched Matthew's truck, which had been found abandoned in a nearby neighborhood. Inside, they found a faint trace of his blood and a shattered phone. To them, it looked less like a disappearance and more like someone trying to rewrite reality. By October 2nd, the story Jennifer had so carefully built was collapsing. The lover she'd confided in finally broke his silence and turned everything over to the police. He brought in the recorded phone calls, screenshots of their texts, and detailed statements describing her late-night visit and confession. One of the recordings captured Jennifer saying something that chilled detectives to the core. He wasn't a person anymore. He wasn't Matt. To police, that wasn't just a statement. It was an insight into her mindset. She had dehumanized her husband long before she pulled the trigger. That same day, October 2nd, 2024, Jennifer Gledhill was arrested and charged with first-degree murder and obstruction of justice. Neighbors watched in shock as police cars filled the quiet cul-de-sac. Officers carried out evidence boxes while Jennifer, dressed in a sweatshirt and jeans, was led out in handcuffs. Some stood at their windows, frozen. This was the same woman they'd seen hosting backyard barbecues and birthday parties. The same woman they'd waved to at the mailbox. Inside the station, Jennifer remained calm. She didn't cry. She didn't ask for a lawyer right away. According to detectives present, she appeared more annoyed than remorseful, as though the inconvenience of being caught was worse than the crime itself. But the case didn't end with her arrest. Because in the days that followed, police uncovered a layer of complicity that shocked even veteran investigators. Through phone records and surveillance data, detectives learned that Jennifer's parents, Thomas and Rosalie Gledhill, had spent over 5 hours at her home in the days following the murder. They had originally told police they'd only been there briefly to pick up some clothing for the children. That was a lie. On October 24, 2024, the Gledhills were both arrested and charged with 4 counts of obstruction of justice. During questioning, Thomas made a fatal slip. When asked whether he'd entered the master bedroom, he said, "I did not go in where the incident happened." That single sentence gave him away. Investigators hadn't mentioned any incident. During a search of the Gledhill parents' home, police discovered something extraordinary. A Glock 19X gun box wrapped in a child's onesie and hidden inside a plastic tote near Jennifer's bedroom. The same weapon Jennifer had shown her lover 2 days before the murder. Rosalie's phone had also been remotely reset, erasing all location data from the period when police believed she helped clean the crime scene. To detectives, the conclusion was obvious. Jennifer hadn't acted alone in the cover-up. As the news broke, the community's sense of disbelief turned to outrage. Matthew Johnson wasn't just another husband. He was a decorated soldier who had spent years serving his country, mentoring younger soldiers, and protecting others. Now, those same brothers-in-arms were joining the effort to find his body and to make sure Jennifer never walked free again. Over the following months, teams of investigators, volunteers, and members of the Utah National Guard combed through vast stretches of land across northern Utah. From Davis County to Box Elder County near the Idaho border, searchers covered miles of terrain, forests, fields, lakes, and abandoned lots, hoping to find the one thing still missing, Matthew himself. One searcher later said, "We were looking for a man who gave everything to everyone else and was betrayed by the person who should have protected him most." The search efforts grew into one of the largest of their kind in Utah's recent history. Over 70 people, including veterans and community volunteers, joined in. Despite months of searching, the grave Jennifer described in her confession was never located. But one discovery gave investigators a glimpse into what she had done. A large vehicle storage container was found floating in water not far from one of the suspected burial areas. Inside were traces of Matthew's blood. It matched the description of the same container Jennifer had used to move his body. It was evidence that tied every detail together, from her confession to her lover, to the cleanup, to the disposal. It told a story too precise to be coincidence. By now, the prosecution had built a nearly airtight case. Jennifer's digital footprint, her recorded statements, the forensic findings, all of it pointed in one direction. Still, one question lingered painfully. Where was Matthew Johnson? Months after her arrest, Jennifer maintained her innocence. She pleaded not guilty to all charges: first-degree murder, 5 counts of obstruction of justice, possession of a controlled substance, abuse or desecration of a human body, and witness tampering. During her bail hearing, prosecutors argued she was a danger to both the community and the ongoing investigation. They revealed she had told her lover she'd rather shoot herself than go to jail. That statement, they said, showed her potential for violence and manipulation. The judge agreed. Bail was denied. Jennifer remained behind bars at the Salt Lake County Jail, awaiting trial. Even from jail, her story rippled outward. A tale of privilege, deceit, and chilling self-preservation. Reporters began calling it one of the most shocking domestic murder cases in Utah's recent memory. And as more details emerged, public sympathy for Jennifer, once a devoted mother, began to evaporate. Adding even more complexity was the discovery of a $500,000 life insurance policy in Matthew's name, with Jennifer listed as the beneficiary. With her now facing murder charges and Matthew's body still missing, the insurance company refused to release any funds. Instead, they filed a motion asking the court to decide who should receive the payout. To many, it was a symbol of Jennifer's greed, that even in death, she had something to gain. As investigators continued to search, Matthew's friends refused to give up. Kevin Thompson, the man who had served beside him for years, said he still couldn't sleep at night knowing his friend was out there somewhere, waiting to be found. Matt was the kind of man who would have done anything for his family, he said. To think he died like that, in his own home, by the person he trusted most, it's unbearable. John Hash, another Green Beret who served with Matthew for over a decade, shared the same disbelief. Having had Jen in our home before, breaking bread with them, then finding out she's responsible for his death, it was shocking. Truly shocking. Every piece of evidence painted the same portrait: a woman who wanted control at any cost. A woman whose affair had turned into an obsession, and who chose murder over accountability. By late 2024, the case had become a grim national fascination. True crime enthusiasts followed every court hearing, every new filing, every rumor about potential burial sites. Some held out hope that Jennifer might finally reveal where she buried her husband. But she never did. As of now, Matthew Johnson's body has still not been found. In February 2025, prosecutors revealed new forensic findings. Small blood fragments inside a recovered plastic container confirmed to be Matthew's. It was one more piece of evidence tying Jennifer to the murder, even without a body. Her trial is set to begin on December 8, 2025. It's expected to last 8 days. The courtroom will be filled with faces that once loved her, and faces that will never forgive her. For Matthew's family, the pain has become an unending cycle. They've lost both parents in their grandchildren's lives, one to death, the other to prison. In a public statement, Matthew's relatives said, "We are hopeful that we will find Matt soon, or that Jennifer, or someone, will come forward with the location of his body so we can properly lay him to rest." It's a plea for peace in a story defined by cruelty. The prosecution's theory remains chillingly simple. Jennifer Gledhill killed her husband because he discovered her affair, and she didn't want the divorce that would follow. In her mind, killing him was easier than losing control, money, or custody of their children. But what she didn't account for was how completely her actions would destroy the very family she claimed to love. 3 innocent children are now growing up without either parent, one buried in an unmarked grave, the other behind bars. And somewhere in northern Utah, Matthew Johnson still lies hidden, waiting to be found. This is the dark side of love, where passion curdles into possession and betrayal turns to bloodshed. Jennifer's story reminds us that evil doesn't always look like a monster. Sometimes it looks like a neighbor, a mother, a wife, someone you thought you knew. As the world waits for her trial, one haunting question remains. How does a mother of 3 justify destroying so many lives for the sake of an affair? Perhaps we'll never truly know. If you found this case as disturbing and heartbreaking as we did, make sure you're subscribed to this channel, where we expose the truth behind the world's most haunting mysteries. Turn on notifications so you never miss the next case, because sometimes the truth is closer than you think.